In a prosperous kingdom of Eziama, there lived a king with two children, a wise prince named Obina and a beautiful but arrogant princess. The king's daughter was renowned for her beauty and grace, but her haughty attitude and disdain for others overshadowed her charms. The king was troubled by his daughter's arrogance and wished for her to learn humility and kindness. In a modest village on the outskirts of the kingdom, a young man named Chinidu lived a simple life. His parents had died when he was still a boy, leaving him an orphan. With no family to support him, Chinidu faced the harsh realities of life from a very young age. Despite his challenging circumstances, Chinidu grew up to be a fine young man, known for his intelligence, kindness, and resourcefulness. Chinidu's early life was marked by relentless hardship. He lived in a small, thatched hut on the edge of the village, surrounded by fields and forest. With no parents to guide him, he had to learn to fend for himself. At the break of dawn each day, he would set out to find work, doing odd jobs for villagers to earn enough for a meal. His clothes were often tattered, and his feet were calloused from walking barefoot on rough terrain. Yet, he never complained. Instead, he faced each day with determination and hope. The village was a close-knit community, and although many felt pity for Chinidu, they admired his perseverance. He would often be seen helping the elderly with their chores, fetching water from the river, and gathering firewood. His kindness did not go unnoticed. The village elder, an old man named Okeke, took a particular interest in him. Okeke would often give Chinidu advice and occasionally a warm meal. Despite the kindness of the villagers, Chinidu's life was a daily struggle. Food was often scarce, and he had to make do with what little he could find or earn. Nights were particularly tough, with the cold winds seeping through the gaps in his hut. He would curl up under a thin blanket, his stomach often rumbling with hunger. Yet, in the midst of these hardships, Chinidu never lost his spirit. He remained optimistic and believed that hard work and kindness would eventually lead him to a better life. As he grew older, Chinidu's suffering intensified. He realized that to survive, he needed a more stable source of income. He started working on people's farms, toiling from dawn till dusk under the scorching sun. His hands became rough and calloused from handling farming tools, and his skin darkened from constant exposure to the sun. The work was grueling, but Chinidu never shirked his duties. He knew that this was his only means of survival. One fateful day, Chinidu was employed temporarily to work on the king's farm. This was a significant opportunity for him, as the pay was better, and it provided a glimpse into a world far removed from his own. The king's farm was vast, with neatly arranged rows of crops and well-fed livestock. Chinidu was assigned various tasks, from planting seeds to tending to the animals. He worked diligently, often staying late to finish his chores. While working on the king's farm, Chinidu had his first encounter with the princess. One day, as he was tending to the livestock, he saw the princess walking through the fields. She was dressed in fine clothes and carried herself with an air of superiority. Chinidu watched in silence as she berated an elderly servant for bringing her the wrong kind of fruit. "How dare you bring me this? Are you trying to poison me?" she screamed, throwing the fruit at the servant's feet. Chinidu felt a mix of anger and pity for the servant, but he knew better than to intervene. Chinidu's heart ached as he witnessed the princess's behavior. Her arrogance and lack of compassion were in stark contrast to his own values. Another time, he saw her humiliate a young maid in front of everyone for accidentally spilling water. "You clumsy fool! You can't even carry water properly. Get out of my sight," she yelled, causing the maid to flee in tears. Chinidu couldn't understand how someone so privileged could be so unkind. Despite these encounters, Chinidu remained focused on his work. One day, while resting under a tree, he had a brief encounter with the princess. She spotted him and approached with a disdainful look. "Who gave you permission to rest? You lazy peasant. Get back to work immediately," she snapped. Chinidu silently obeyed, but her words stung. He couldn't help but feel a growing resentment towards her. One day, while Chinidu was working on the farm, he overheard a conversation between the king and Prince Obina. The king was lamenting his daughter's arrogance and called her by name. "Obina, Your sister Amara will never change unless she learns humility." The king said, exasperated. Chinedu paused for a moment, recognizing the name, but then quickly returned to his work, dismissing the thought as irrelevant to his daily struggles. Meanwhile, the king had arranged for suitors to come and seek the princess's hand in marriage. However, Amara rudely rejected them. Once a young nobleman from a neighboring village presented her with a beautiful necklace, hoping to win her favor. "This is what you call a gift?" She scoffed, throwing the necklace to the ground. "It looks like something you'd give to a servant." The young nobleman, humiliated, left the palace in shame. Another day, a wealthy merchant's son brought an exotic bird as a token of his affection. Amara took one look at the bird and said, "Do you think this pathetic creature can impress me? Take your bird and get out of my sight." She released the bird, which flew around the room, causing chaos. The merchant's son, embarrassed and dejected, left immediately. The last straw was when a prince from a neighboring kingdom came to court Amara. He was known for his noble demeanor and kind heart. He approached her with respect and offered her a bouquet of rare flowers. Amara, instead of appreciating the gesture, took a bucket of water and emptied it on him. "How dare you bring me flowers? Do I look like a common village girl?" she screamed. The prince, drenched and humiliated, left the palace, swearing never to return. The king, now enraged by his daughter's behavior, sent out a decree that the men of the village should gather at the palace the next day. He no longer cared about their background. All he wanted was for his daughter to get married and hopefully change her ways. When the day arrived, the palace grounds were filled with men from all walks of life, eager to try their luck. Chinedu, although not interested in the princess, found himself standing close to Prince Obina, who had insisted he join the gathering. The king made the announcement. Anyone who could guess the princess's name would marry her. As the men took turns guessing, each incorrect answer added to the tension in the air. Chinedu stood quietly, his mind elsewhere, until he accidentally mouthed, "Amara," to himself, recalling the king's conversation with the prince. Prince Obina, noticing this, turned to him with a spark of hope. "What did you just say?" he asked. Chinedu, startled, replied, "I think her name is Amara." "Say it louder," Prince Obina urged. Chinedu hesitated, but then gathered his courage. "Her name is Amara," he called out. The crowd fell silent, and the king's eyes widened in astonishment. Amara, standing beside her father, looked equally shocked. "Yes, her name is Amara," the king declared. "You have guessed correctly." Amara, stunned by the turn of events, stared at Chinedu with a mixture of disbelief and rage. "I will not marry him," she shouted, her voice echoing through the palace halls. "He is beneath me." The king, however, had reached his limit. "You will marry Chinedu, and that is final," he declared with an authority that brooked no argument. Despite Amara's vehement protests, the wedding was arranged. The ceremony was modest compared to the royal splendor she was accustomed to, but the king's decision was unyielding. He knew it was the only way to teach his daughter humility. After the wedding, Amara and Chinedu were sent off to live in a small but comfortable house on the edge of the village. The king, recognizing Chinedu's worth, appointed him to a position in the royal council. Chinedu accepted the role with gratitude, eager to contribute to the kingdom's governance. Life in their new home was a stark contrast to the palace. Amara, used to having servants at her beck and call, found herself thrust into a world of daily chores and responsibilities. Chinedu, although now having the means to employ house staff, decided against it. He wanted Amara to learn the value of hard work and to see the world through the eyes of those less privileged. "Why don't we have any servants?" Amara demanded one morning, her frustration palpable as she struggled to sweep the floor. Chinedu looked at her calmly. "Because, Amara, it's time you learned what it means to work hard and appreciate the efforts of others." The days that followed were a test of patience and endurance for Amara. She had to fetch water from the village well, cook meals, and clean their home. Her hands, once soft and unblemished, became rough with calluses. She burned her fingers on hot pots and spilled water countless times. Each day, she felt her resentment towards Chinedu grow, but he remained patient and kind, always offering to help without taking over the tasks. One evening, as Amara was preparing dinner, Chinedu approached her. "Let me show you an easier way to chop these vegetables," he said gently, guiding her hands with his own. His touch was firm yet kind, and for the first time, Amara felt a flicker of appreciation for his patience and guidance. Gradually, Amara began to see the changes in herself. She was becoming more skilled at managing the household chores, and her resentment towards Chinedu started to diminish. She noticed how he worked tirelessly, both in the council and at home, always with a calm demeanor and a ready smile. He never complained, never belittled her, and always treated her with respect. One particularly challenging day, as Amara struggled to carry a heavy bucket of water, she tripped and fell. Water spilled everywhere, and she sat on the ground, tears of frustration streaming down her face. Chinedu rushed over, lifting her gently and helping her to her feet. "It's okay," he said softly. "Everyone struggles at first. You're doing great." His words, filled with genuine care, pierced through her anger and pride. For the first time, Amara felt a deep sense of gratitude towards him. She began to realize that Chinedu's intentions were not to humiliate her but to help her grow. As weeks turned into months, Amara's attitude underwent a significant transformation. She became more patient, more understanding, and more appreciative of the simple joys in life. She started to enjoy the satisfaction of a well-cooked meal and a clean home. She began to see Chinedu not as an adversary but as a partner who genuinely cared for her well-being. Their relationship evolved from one of tension and resentment to one of mutual respect and affection. Amara started to confide in Chinedu, sharing her thoughts and fears. Chinedu, in turn, listened attentively and offered his support and wisdom. One evening, as they sat together under the starlit sky, Amara turned to Chinedu. "I was wrong about you," she admitted, her voice filled with sincerity. "I see now how much you've done for me, and I am grateful." Chinedu smiled, his eyes reflecting the warmth of his heart. "I always believed in you, Amara. I knew you had the strength to change." As time passed, Amara and Chinedu grew closer, their bond deepening with each passing day. Amara's transformation became evident to all who knew her. She became known for her kindness and humility, a stark contrast to the arrogant princess she once was. In the end, Amara not only found love and respect for her husband, but also a newfound purpose in life. She began to use her influence to help the less fortunate in the village, working alongside Chinedu to bring about positive change. Together, they became a beloved couple, their story serving as a testament to the power of love, patience, and the ability to change. Amara's journey from arrogance to humility and Chinedu's unwavering support and kindness created a legacy that would be remembered in the kingdom for generations to come.